hey, we've got this great business that started up, but the only people we're selling to are people that we connected with, we knew in our network. How do we get to people that haven't heard of us? That's a really common one.
Right.
Or, wow, we really believe we can grow this business. We can double this business in 3 years. Uh, how do we create the leads that's going to create that effort? So it's
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlick, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Pete. Pete, thank you so much for being here with us today.
it's so great to be here, Michelle.
Awesome. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Yeah, so I am a marketing consultant and I help CEOs that don't have a marketing leader, B2B typically, that really just need help to figure out how to make that whole marketing thing work.
Love
I
it.
actually started as an engineer back in the coming out of school, so I have a kind of a technical background. Most of my clients are in technology industries or have technology products. But I just love helping people that are really good at what they do, but not really good at marketing, make their business grow.
So give us more of the background story. Let's get into how did you get into like the tech I get? How did that turn into marketing for you?
Yeah, so I like to say I think I was born an engineer. I always thought that's who I was. And went through school, got a job at IBM, and loved the geeky tech stuff, but found myself over about 7 years being drawn to the customer side of business, different companies, went to the Silicon Valley, and found that that's really where I like to be. And I came to a point where I thought, oh my gosh, could I really go to the dark side and be in that marketing or sales? It seemed the same at the time. And what I finally figured out is what I really love to do is create. And I could be very creative in marketing, as you know, I found to be the place I can be the most creative. So that was 30 years ago, 35 years ago. Had a career, different companies, different industries, different continents. Learned a lot about how marketing works and doesn't work inside different size companies. And 4 years ago, decided that I had a lot to share with people that were struggling with this just at the basic business level. So I created B2B Clarity. And as I said, since then, I've been seeking out business leaders, owners, founders that they're really tend to be really, they have a career in something technical or they're just really good at their business. Doesn't have to be technology. Um, but marketing, it's a black art to a lot of people. And so I kind of speak marketing, if you will, and I speak engineering as well. So I find that I can really help them navigate that thing we call marketing and figure out how to make it work for their business.
Nice. I love it. So now when you're working with people, what does that look like exactly? Are you kind of going in, is there a particular avenue that you tend to work with first, or do you go in and do a big overhaul? How does it usually work with you?
Well, usually the one thing I do is we start with knowing we don't know what we need until we look closer, right? So whether it's part of an agreed engagement or it's just standalone, we do a what I call a marketing blueprint. And it's a 1 month process where we really get into understanding how their current customer journey works. And for me, marketing is all about the relationship with your prospects and your customers. I kind of boil it down to that. So we take a look at what's going on today in their business in each of the stages of that customer or prospect, getting to know them, finding out about them, getting to know them, committing, etc. And from that process, in that blueprint, we're able to say, okay, for your business, here's what a marketing engine would look like that's right sized for who you are, your level of maturity, the knowledge of marketing in your company. Because for some, it's very low. For some, they've got maybe a talented marketer or they have a culture of marketing, right? So everybody's starting from a different place. What are their customer needs? What are the industry competitive situations? And what makes sense from a financial standpoint, and their growth goals for them to invest in marketing, right? Because that can vary a lot. So understanding kind of what marketing could be or should be for their particular situation is something that I find is sometimes missing from people helping with marketing, right? They'll say, oh, I've got this process, or I've got this thing that helps everybody. Well, I really believe you have to understand that particular company's need, right? And then from there, I have a market engine build process, and it might be a 9-month process, something called marketing GPS, or it might be a 3-month, more speedy, simpler baseline marketing engine build called marketing RPM, or somewhere in between. And that includes those steps of, okay, what is our marketing strategy, given that view of what it could do for the business? Who's going to do the work? And I'll look at a vendor or staffing plan. Usually it's a combination. Whether they have internal people or they have vendors that they work with, I'll help them kind of set up that team to get the work done. And then processes, right? And how do we have a content program where we're creating valuable content that continues month after month after month, right? For example, the website, is that okay? Key partnerships, campaigns, does Google Ads make sense in their world, or is it totally a face-to-face situation, right? All those different things. So that's really what my process is about. Building the engine and then equipping them, training them so that I can hand them the keys at the end and say, go to town, drive this thing.
So I've noticed a lot of kind of professional services in particular that are B2B, your engineers and stuff going, yeah, but we're different. We have a really long sales cycle, especially if they're doing something like, I don't know, buying or building roads, right? Like you're not always going to have the same client over and over again. And
Right.
they kind of go, marketing, I don't know. What do you say to those kind of that are thinking that they have to go door knocking to all their clients?
The typical profile, the people that that come to me or that feel that I can help them, that we have a conversation about, is back to what I said. It's this person or this organization that's really good at that road building or whatever it might be, that
Yep.
picky that they make. They've had success. They have a viable business. They're profitable maybe, but what they typically are some form of missing is the growth. So a common question to your point is, hey, we've got this great business that started up, but the only people we're selling to are people that we connected with, we knew in our network. How do we get to people that haven't heard of us? That's a really common one. Or, wow, we really believe we can grow this business. We can double this business in 3 years. How do we create the leads that's going to create that effort? So it's I think to your point, it's marketing is taking what they've done organically because they're just good at it to scale that right beyond that way that they've gotten the business.
Awesome. So when it comes to those kind of clientele and being able to really embrace the marketing, especially if they're not kind of sure how that all goes down, do you work with them to kind of familiarize them with how marketing, particularly digital marketing, works and kind of navigate that down that road? Or is it more of bringing the right people in to help them to navigate that?
I'd say it's more the former.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in the power of meaning in marketing. And what I mean by that is I think it's so common for marketing to be activity driven, to be, here's all the things we're going to do. When I found the first step with these founders or presidents or CEOs is, do you have that, what I call true story for your business? Is it clear to you and to your team first, and then your customers, why, what it is that you do, who you do it for, and why that's valuable to them? I find that so many of these people that we're talking about, they're off talking about what they make and how great it is, or they're just busy interacting with their clients, but they haven't thought through who's the best people for this, who's the very best. So it's a targeting situation, right? And to answer your question, I see the value in doing that with the team and having them own that understanding. It's really rather than hand it off to a vendor, for example. I think it starts with that understanding of that true story. And once you know that and everybody's agreed on that, that's the core of that engine we were talking about. Then I work with them to bring in other people to help. But it's typically the delivery or the implementation work that those other people help with.
Nice. And is it, in your experience, kind of that story that is the most shocking of, hey, we got a story we can tell and we can actually do this online? Or are there other aspects that people kind of need to know about to be able to market effectively?
No, it's really the story is the big aha moment for most of the people that I work with. They've struggled with a complicated story, or they've struggled with confusing stories where sales is saying one thing and customer service is saying something else, or the people just don't understand, or they're getting no reaction from the market. And when we go through that exercise, that's the most rewarding part for me, where you see these owners. Oh my gosh, yes, that's so simple. And that's us. That's us. You hear them say, that's us, right? If you get there, the tactics to me, and we work on the tactics too. So content is an example where we'll have a process where we ideate together on what are the valuable topics, given this identity, who we are, to help share value with our prospects. So that's a brainstorming process because they're the expert on their industry. So they absolutely need to be part of that, can't be handed off. But I do think that often they're missing the opportunity to leverage expertise that doesn't have to be hugely expensive. It doesn't have to be a full-time employee. It can be just the right vendor at the right time. And so it's a leverage thing, but it all centers around that understanding of the meaning, back to the meaning of who they are and how they help.
So when it comes to kind of, once I understand that story and how it works, do you find that it infiltrates the other departments and that people are starting to use that? And if so, how?
Yes, it absolutely does. I just recorded a video called "Marketing is a Team Sport." And what I mean by that is marketing that works is that true story inside everybody in the company. So everybody knows why we're here and what we're doing and what our value is and for who. And that way, it may not seem like marketing, but when you have consistent behavior that's pointed at that value in customer service people and sales people, as well as the marketing people, and by the way, the product people as well, right? Your product is one of the biggest ways that your customers experience your value. When those are all aligned, when those people are all aligned, you've done a 10x on your influence of your marketing, right? Because it's not just the web banners that tell your story. It's the behavior of every one of your employees that are working with have any touch points with your prospects or your clients.
Well, that does bring up a great point, is how do you translate that story? Because people get it and they go, okay, well, as a salesperson, I can iterate that story. But in a web banner, how do you iterate a story of the company and what they're up to?
So for me, the key to that is where you start with the story. I mentioned before that companies, especially technology companies, tend to want to talk about how things work. And I have
We've got
found,
widgets. They're
yeah,
awesome.
and they're great widgets, right?
They're great.
Will not believe how great they are, and they probably are, and they believe it.
Yep.
But their clients, the key learning here is their clients, their prospects, don't want to know about them. They want to know how they can help them with their problem, right? So the story, that true story that can be easily transferred to all these different groups, is this simple, intuitive message about solving a problem that the clients have, improving their situation versus what we do in our capabilities. One client, an example is, this was a commercial construction technology company, and they had really great capabilities to wire up these commercial buildings with all the different low voltage technology that they needed. And they were struggling because, oh my gosh, how do we explain? Our story is so complex. And we went through this process, and the story that we landed on was bringing the workplace to life. So again, from their customer, who is commercial real estate or commercial people who own commercial buildings, the message was, yeah, we have all kinds of capabilities that we can bring to you, but what you get is a workplace that is alive and connected and your team can work together, right? So it's about the end state. Well, that story is very easy for everybody on the team to get with just a little effort of training and education, bringing people along. And so then everybody can have this picture for how you're making the world better, and in particular, our specific part of the world better. Well, then once you get there, all of the complicated details are proof points, right? They're just ways to make the case for what you said how you can help. So the simple part is the most powerful part. And then depending on your job, you might be the expert on one subset of that technology. And you can tell the big story because it's easy to not remember, and then explain how in this particular area, in this particular technology or this particular application, here's some proof of that.
I love it. And when it comes to kind of bringing that story around, how did they kind of feel like they fluff it up and bring it back to life again? It's like, okay, we've got all this stuff and it's great. We put it out for 6 months and then it's like, and now we got to do it again, is kind of sometimes how they feel. And it's like, no, you're still solving the problem. So what did they do?
Well, yeah, see, so my opinion on that is if you find the true story, if you get to the good stuff, it has a much longer half-life than the, catchy phrase of the day, right? Or
right.
Here's a common one. We go through this process. Oh my gosh, this is great. 6 months later, Rev 3.0 gets launched. Oh, we got to change everything. Well, do you really? Because your product 3.0 is still bringing the workplace to life. It's just doing it in these different ways, right? So if you found the true story, it's more of an evolution for your clients, right? It's your client's need, which isn't going to change every day or even every year, really. It may evolve. There are examples. COVID is one where you have to respond to their world changing, but you don't need to change that story based on your products and your capabilities. They all just evolve to support that existing, hopefully, if you got the right story.
So you covered some of the kind of stumbling blocks that somebody might be having if they're still kind of door knocking and they haven't figured out how to market their products. They're still kind of in that they're not understanding the digital marketing aspects, or maybe why their marketing isn't working. What are some of the big stumbling blocks that somebody might be having and they're thinking, Pete, we need you so badly?
Yeah, so common one, a couple common ones. There's the situation where I call it serial vendors, where you have this idea, a false idea, that marketing is, we just got to find that right special campaign and it's going to be magic. It's a silver bullet. Maybe it's SEO this year. Maybe it's, Google ads another year. Who knows what it might be, events it might be. And we're going to bank on that and the money's just going to come in. And they hire a vendor who maybe the vendor has part of that responsibility because they told a great story about how SEO is going to really solve all the problems, right? So they hire that siloed solution that's not part of the engine, that's not part of seeing all the continuous steady state experience that needs to be created. And surprise, it doesn't deliver what they had hoped. So that didn't work. Next year, try another. Next year, try another. I've spoken with CEOs that have gone through that 4 or 5 times, and they are, by the way, very skeptical. I'm sure you've experienced it too. They've been burned over and over and over again. So there's a real trust issue with a story because I've been here before, and there's not. And so for me, that's a really big common problem, is thinking that there's one thing that's going to fix this and fix it really fast. The truth of marketing to me is that marketing that works is an ecosystem, and it has to, the pieces have to work together, and it has to work over time. You can get near-term results in some cases, but the real payoff is the momentum, right? And the overall. So that's one. Another is the opposite, where they're trying to do all the best practices. So they have a checklist, and they're signing up for all the new acronyms, and they're doing all the things. And their team, frankly, can't, team and money, maybe, it's just not enough to do them well. So they're doing all of them halfway. And in marketing, as you know, there's a threshold sometimes where a lot of the work doesn't have any result until you get to a certain point, and that's when you finally get the results. And I've worked for so many organizations in my career where different sizes, from small to very big, where they have these 18-month grand campaigns that quietly get stopped after month 11, right? And all that was pretty much wasted because they didn't get to the end of it. So I see a real opportunity for those companies. Again, back to the plan. What can marketing do and not do for us? What are the top 2 or 3 things that would make the most difference first? And let's focus on those 2 or 3 things and watch what we're doing and make sure it does what we expect it to. And it might not, and then we adapt and we adjust and we be patient, but deliver on those and be hesitant to add more to the plate until you see results from those.
So in a moment, I'm going to ask you about a Cinderella story of one of your clients. And before we do that, we're going to take a quick break.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.
So I am super excited to hear. Give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
So I mentioned that I like to help companies that are these technical experts. Well, this is a good example of one. This CEO had been a career executive in test engineering in larger organizations. So he was really good at test engineering. He and 2 other colleagues formed their own company after 20 years in the business, and they created a business to solve these thorny problems for other big companies, right? From their network, they quickly found a few clients, and they had, just the 3 of them had started their business with like 1.4 million in revenue for a couple of years. Great, right? But they saw the potential to really grow this because they knew what they could do, and they knew they weren't marketers. And this was what was so great. They were so humble about it. They said, I know it works because it worked at these big companies we worked at, but I have no idea how. So we went through the process together that I described to you, and this was the faster one, the marketing RPM. So it was a 3 to 6 month build. We came up with that true story, and in their case, it was huge because they told their story, and again, it was somewhat complex, but they're really good at what they do because they have this philosophy and this ideology. Well, when we dug deeper, we realized that their philosophy was actually an industry best practice called shift left. It was a methodology that, for whatever reason, 20 years, no one had ever kind of co-opted or owned it or taken it in and said, that's us. But everybody in the industry knew that was what good looked like. The 2 words, shift left, and oh yeah, I know what you mean. Well, we can't do that. So they were able to say, we are shift left done right. We can get you to shift left. And the power of that was, again, it's 3 engineers selling to these large software organizations in large, multi-billion-dollar businesses. They were able to tell that story, and they could leverage this 20 years of best practices for their champions to sell it up the chain in the business, right? So it was this just great, somewhat lucky, but hey, take what you get.
Right.
They changed their website. They rallied around the message. They created a story, and that same year they landed a $4 million client, and that is likely to be bigger than that in future years. And now are able to go hunt for more whales with a very focused ABM, account-based marketing kind of approach, because in their market, again, everybody needs something different. And for them, they want these huge companies, and there's only so many that are the right ones, right? So they're able to be really zeroed in and go after a deep relationship with these people and try to meet them. So that's an example where they saw the result within a year dramatically. And it was fun, again, to see the reaction, the breakthrough, as they called it, with the shift left.
Right. Well, and it's always great to be able to condense a story into 4 words. That is the ultimate in storytelling.
Right.
Beautiful. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Well, I wrote a book. It's called On Purpose, The CEO's Guide to Marketing with Meaning. You can get that on Amazon. I also have a free pocket guide for CEOs that are struggling with this marketing issue that they can get at my website. And the link I'm hoping you can share in the episode here. That will be b2b-clarity.com/CEO guide. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to reach on LinkedIn. And I have a YouTube channel with over 100 videos for CEOs and their marketing problems too.
Awesome. We will, of course, have all of Pete's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click on them, open up in a new browser because we're not done yet. So tell me about the guides that you have. What does it do? How does it work for us?
It's really simple, which is in the spirit of my approach. And it's focused on a lot of what we've already talked about, a mindset change for them to stop with all the activity, take step back, come up with that focus on who exactly they can help. And I like to say it's more than a target market. It's a bullseye market. It's the very, very specific people that they help the most, how you can help them, right? And then go from there to figure out what you need, what you don't need, focus on not doing too much, all the things that we've talked about. It's really a six-step guide to help them on that journey.
Beautiful. I love the term bullseye because I think so many people get wrapped up in, yeah, but there's all these other people in the periphery. And it's like, I know, and yeah, trust me, you'll miss and you'll hit some of them too at some point. So I love the analogy of that. And the book, is that directed at the same type of content, but explained further, or what is the book?
It's focused on marketing with meaning. So it has some of what we talked about. I think that there's one part that I'd like to just mention, that kind of the core of the book is the idea that I mentioned that I really believe marketing is about relationships. That's our job. And relationships really come from meaning, having a reason to take time to connect with somebody, right? Especially in B2B. So what I see is there are 3 superpowers of marketing with meaning that leaders need to instill this meaning in their organization. And those 3, one we've pretty much talked about, and it's authenticity. It's the true story, right? What's the truth about you, and how can you be transparent and share that, not just with your clients, but with your employees too. So we talked about that one. The second one is intentionality, being intentional. And that is the idea of less is more, and do less and do it really well, and measure what you do. Another thing I say is don't do anything in marketing until you know the reason why you're doing it, right? We all know about random acts of marketing. It's so easy to sign up for that free platform or whatever. And all of those things cost time, and if not money. And then the third one, which is, I would say, sometimes considered unconventional, is generosity, being generous. And that activates that meaning. An example of that is, I'm a big believer in content, value add content. I know you know about that, Michelle, but the idea that sharing useful things with prospects is the equivalent of your first impression being you giving. And I'll contrast that to a cold call campaign where your first impression is taking, because you're asking for their attention with really nothing in return. So I found that giving as far as you can in the sales process before you have to charge, from the beginning to as far in as you can, is the best way to connect and attract clients. So the combination of being authentic, telling the truth, being intentional, doing less and doing it better, and being generous. Giving first is, and as long as you can, those three together create and sustain that meaning that I was talking about.
Beautiful. I love it. So peeps, again, click on the show notes, get the link that you're looking for, and keep listening. We're not done yet. So Pete, I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know you were especially kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
4 years ago. So yeah, in my late 50s, I had my whole career. I had never considered myself somebody that would not work for a company. I even had points where I said, oh, maybe I should do it now. Nah, that's not me. And then, things change. And I had a realization that I was spending so little time working on things that I was really good at, that was really valuable. I was spending so much of my corporate job on useless, not useless, but things that didn't stir my soul, right? And I just thought, wow, what if I could find people that could use this thing that I really can bring to them, all this experience and the creativity. And so that was the inspiration for me. And that was 4 years ago. And I'll never look back. I just love it. Just love doing it.
That's awesome. I love it. You have been absolutely fantastic. And any last words for our peeps?
I really appreciate the opportunity, Michelle. And I just encourage any of those founders out there or CEOs that are frustrated. It's not you. It's okay. Get help, because you don't have to be good at the marketing thing. You can focus on this expert thing that you do.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Pete. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Thank you, Michelle.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nidluck. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.